how would we feel if China last week had announced that it was entering an alliance with Russia and Cuba to build up military bases and military forces, air, naval, and land forces in Cuba?
And we cannot have beneficial electrification if the electricity is run on fossil fuel. I am tired of taking small steps. Environmental racism has been killing my people since the beginning of people. We come up here and we talk calmly and we talk quietly about the changes we want to see. But how can people of color take a stand or make informed decisions when they have no access to information?
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The geniuses are at it again. The political and military leaders who totally screwed up Afghanistan and the Middle East are rushing with a new project, taking on China. It wasn't enough to lose $8 trillion and 1 million or more American and Arab and Afghan lives. Now Biden is starting a new war alliance with Australia and the British. More U.S. soldiers will be sent to Australia, and weapons-grade nuclear material will be sent down under. Here's a clip of David Vine speaking about this on Democracy Now!
Is a new Cold War. I think this announcement of this triple alliance does ultimately is an announcement of a near formal declaration of a new Cold War that can lead us down a path toward a war that could be not only cold, but it really should be unthinkably the hot, possibly nuclear war between the two most powerful nations on earth, China and the United States. Most of the focus has been on the sub deal, which has very disturbing elements, but I'm glad you are calling attention to the military buildup that the deal represents. I think it is helpful for people in the United States in particular to think, how would we feel if China last week had announced that it was entering an alliance with Russia and Cuba to build up military bases and military forces, air, naval, and land forces in Cuba, to also be engaged in weapons development, including hypersonic weapons development and electromagnetic weapons development, to engage in increased cyber intelligence gathering, spying, and space activities with Cuba, to also have a mining deal in place, and to be building nuclear-powered submarines that involve the transfer of weapons-grade, that is nuclear weapons-grade, highly enriched uranium to Cuba. How would we feel if the shoe was on the other foot, if we were faced with this kind of an alliance in our backyard? That is what the United States announced last week with Australia and the UK, that they are building up. 5 million people died in the US-led wars, where we spent $8 trillion, trillion with a T, on war. This new Cold War will strip even more funds from the needs that are actually facing us and plow more money into the military, industrial, congressional complex.
The U.S. has admitted that its August 29th drone strike was not righteous after all, but one that wiped out 10 members of an Afghan family. General Frank McKenzie said, "As a combatant commander, I am fully responsible for this strike and this tragic outcome." So he's responsible. Will he be fired? Demoted? Will any politician who supported the various Afghan and Middle East religious extremists and then supported the war on terror be made to resign in shame? Don't bet on it. Things are, of course, pretty terrible in Palestine, but one hope is some changes in Jewish opinion in the United States. I read a piece for the magazine New Politics called "We Anti-Zionists Speak for 1/4 of U.S. Jews." I think I backed up my claim with recent polling numbers and social media statistics for Jewish Voice for Peace, and If Not Now. We link to the article on thestruggle.org. Speaking of anti-Zionism, Haaretz had this piece, which in its online English version was its top story. This Israeli man, Yaakov Sha'aret, at the venerable age of 95, did an interview where he declared himself an anti-Zionist. The reason this is a big deal is that Sha'aret's father was a top Zionist leader, Israel's first foreign minister and second prime minister. None of this has had any impact on U.S. politicians. With no hearings at all, Congress voted $1 billion more for Israel. That on top of the $3.8 billion they've already received this year. Of course, it's for defense only. It will be used for Israel's Iron Dome. When do the Palestinians get an Iron Dome? They suffer 100 times more casualties than do the Israelis. The U.S. voted something like 400 to 9 in the House for this new gift. In case you're wondering why they do it, it's because Israel decided long ago it would unreservedly support the U.S. empire and right-wing governments all over the world. It will do the work that the empire's elected leaders are reluctant to do openly. This goes on from Guatemala to Serbia to Burma. In case you live in Connecticut and are wondering about your members of the House, they all voted for this $1 billion handout. The group that sponsors this program is the Middle East Crisis Committee. It formed in September 1982 in response to the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, and especially in response to the Sabra Shatila massacres of September of that year. The killers were Lebanese fascists sent into the Palestinian camps by the Israeli government led by Begin and Sharon. Regretfully, we made no mention of this in our program last week. If you don't know about the massacre, we have an archive on it on our site, thestruggle.org. We want to call attention to an artwork by Dia Al-Azawi, done years ago with ballpoint pen and pencil. The nearly 6-foot wide work is now at the Tate Museum in London. It owes its style to Picasso's Guernica, but it is has far more details packed in. As the Tate says, it's claustrophobic. We link to the Tate's webpage about the artwork in the headline section of thestruggle.org. As many of you know, we keep links to our YouTube channel on our website, thestrugglevideo.org. This is the new top panel on our homepage of that site. On the top left is Nick George's, a selfie he took on top of a 300-foot crane in London when he unfurled a Palestinian flag. To his right is an artwork showing solidarity between Palestinians and Free Syrians. To the right of that is Mark Nelson's drawing for NoRugersToIsrael.com, showing symbolically the harm done by Connecticut's Ruger Company. On the top right, a rally in front of Congresswoman DeLauro's office, criticizing her total support for the Israeli government. At the bottom left is the threatened Remington Woods destruction in Bridgeport. Center is candles being lit in front of a picture of Mubarak Solomon, who was killed by state police in West Haven. And on the right, a banner being held by people opposed to the building of a fracked methane gas plant in Killingly, Connecticut. Climate and environment news. Here's a newly bearded Bill McKibben giving an answer to a Killingly, Connecticut climate activist after a talk McKibben gave at his Vermont Middlebury College. The activist asked for advice on what could be done to fight another fracked gas plant in Killingly.
So first of all, enormous thanks for fighting and doing that. And if you can keep the fight alive even a little longer, you're going to win, because time is very much on your side. With each day that passes, the technological outcomes around electricity generation become clearer and clearer and clearer. So the argument for gas was twofold. One was that it was a bridge fuel, and we now understand that that's nonsense, that in fact it may be more dangerous, at least as dangerous as coal, because not only do you get a big slug of carbon dioxide when you burn it, but the methane that is released is extremely potent heat-trapping gas. The other argument was that you have to have these peaker plants and the facility, but it's very clear that utilities are beginning to move past this quickly. What we need instead are big batteries that are now becoming available to store renewable energy so that when the sun goes down and the wind drops, we have backup to supply. And it's a cheaper and smarter way to do it. The reason that we're not doing it entirely now is just because vested interest is more comfortable with existing business models, and there's a lot of money still to be made building a plant like that. But I promise you, if you can figure out how to hold them off even another year or so, that's going to be, I think, enough time, because it's becoming so abundantly clear in cases like that what the technological answer is. The idea at this point that we would be building power plants that run on fossil fuel that will be there for 40 years makes absolutely laughable all these claims about net zero by 2050 and blah, blah, blah that people keep putting out. If people are even the slightest bit serious about that, and you're right, all the politicians in Connecticut talk a good game, then they will not build a plant like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a great point about that.
Now, from the rally in Connecticut on September 18th about one aspect of government racism, environmental racism, the practice of putting power plants and the dirtier industries in poorer and minority neighborhoods. We start with music by Mixashawn.
Give it up for Mixer Sean. Woo! Killing it on the saxophone.
My full name is Rhonda Watson Wishart. I say this, I add the Watson because it's very, very important, especially if you're from the Willimantic area. The Wyndham branch, my family, my aunts helped start the first NAACP branch back in the 60s in Willimantic in that area. And they've always, and the Watsons, especially the Watson women, have always been very vocal and very motivated for justice and for peace for everybody. I am a daughter, a sister, a mother, a wife, an activist, and a yoga teacher. And all of these things have made me the person who I am. I was born in Chicopee, Massachusetts in 1967. I have lived between Springfield, Hartford, and Killingly my entire life. Just doing a little bit of a triangle. The whole environmental justice part for me is very personal because as a child, my grandmother, who lived in Killingly, always was into the land and living off the land and teaching us how to live off the land. And my mother would always send us away in the summer to be with her. And at first, as all kids, you don't want to be away from your friends, but as I've grown and I've been able to think about it, they would always kill for bugs in the summertime in our apartment, in our projects. They would always come into all the apartments and they fumigate and they would spread all these poisons and all these toxins. And my mother knew then that it wasn't good for us. And so she would just send us away to some place which was better, which was Killingly. And now Killingly, a place that is just known for its clean air and its beauty and it's your ability just to go and just to breathe, is being threatened for greed, for a plant that we don't need, something that is just not necessary. So the NAACP, me, myself, and all of us in the nation who believe, as we all believe here, that we all deserve the right to breathe. We all deserve clean air to breathe in, to breathe out. We shouldn't have our children, each generation, being worse and worse with asthma and all these other ailments because of the quality of our air. So I hope, so the goal of the NAACP and our allies is to bring awareness, to bring conversations, and to bring awareness. One of my roles in the NAACP is I'm the chairperson for our conversations on race. About 5 to 6 times a year, we have these different conversations where we've discussed the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, and we were showed how truly grace lives within those of us of color. Because to be able to show grace after having your house burnt down and feel more sad for the person who broke your house down than for the fact that you lost your house, because that person has to live with that hate in their heart. So we have these conversations, we make it a safe place for people of all races, all colors to come and to be a part of those conversations. I want to thank everybody for coming here today and just being a part of this work, to be able, for us to be able to breathe, for us to be able to go out and play, and for our children and our children's children to have open green spaces like this so they can run around and just know what it feels like to have the grass between their toes. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. My sister-in-law is named Rhonda, so that's a good name to have. Thank you for your message, love. So our next speaker will be Leticia. She is the owner of Green Eco Warriors, Efficiency, Energy, Justice. Give it up for Leticia, my new sister. Woo! I've adopted you.
Yo soy Leticia Colón de Mejías, and I'm upset. I'm mad that there's a lot of people up the hill mad about masks and vaccines, when at the end of the day, that's a passing thing and climate change is going to kill us all. What is going on? Why are there not more people here fighting this fight? Why do we not have this place filled with humans who are concerned about their children and the future of the planet we live on? I have no interest in going to Mars. And we cannot have beneficial electrification if the electricity is run on fossil fuel. I am tired of taking small steps. Environmental racism has been killing my people since the beginning of people. We come up here and we talk calmly and we talk quietly about the changes we want to see. But how can people of color take a stand or make informed decisions when they have no access to information? The time to educate people is now. It is not that my people don't care, it is that they are unaware. And we need to wake everybody up and make a real call to action. We need climate education in
our public schools. Why are we paying all this money for education if it isn't education? I keep seeing the same people calling for the same things. We need to reach into the communities that we have left behind. We need money and resources to fight this fight. And we need to get a lot louder. Over 400,000 people in our state cannot afford their energy bills. But we're giving millions of dollars every year to fight carbon emissions. Where does the money go? Where is the money going? It is not helping my people. Yesterday, we had 10 people from all over the state of Connecticut graduate and gain access to energy efficiency careers. No news, no governor, no support, no coverage. Why? Why? It is time that we take different steps. Time to take real action, to end our dependency on fossil fuel in all places. So what then? After this, I'm over there with the frog. I want people who want to take real action, because I'm tired. For the last 10 years, I've come to every rally, every event, and I've stood here and asked for people to get behind my effort to educate my community, people of color, and the children who don't even have science. Do you know in Connecticut, in communities with over 50% people of color, they don't even offer contextualized science in grade school? That is disgusting. It is unacceptable. It is intolerable, and it is enough. If you took the time to come here today, thank you. But take it one step further. Go back home and ask yourself why we don't have science in the hood, why there's no climate change education, and why there aren't more people of color leading in our state. Because we're not stupid, and there's plenty of us. We want a seat at the table. We want to be there when they're making the plan and doling out the money and making the choices. Because if not, you're defining our problems and our solutions, and that is not right, it is not fair, it is not equity. I want equity now. People at Deep want to label me as a crazy, passionate Latina. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because I'm sick of my people dying while everybody else walks around like nothing has happened, cover their eyes, their ears, and their mouth, and don't say crap about it. We all breathe air. Every one of you, your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, you all breathe air. All air is connected. All things are connected. And we must take a stand together, because the next time I come out here, I'm expecting to not be able to walk right to the stage. We must take a different approach. We need public service announcements on the radio, on the TV. If you own a nonprofit, write a public service announcement. Get it on the radio. Let's stop talking to ourselves and stop talking to the people who have not had the supports that they needed. Ask them what they need to be at the table and then give them that support. Don't keep the money to yourself or the information to yourself. Share it around. Sharing is caring, my friends. Thank you.
More of the rally and future programs. Now, from Democracy Now! Again, news about the treatment of Haitian refugees.
The U.S. Special Envoy to Haiti has resigned in protest over the Biden administration's mass deportation of Haitian asylum seekers. In a letter, the longtime diplomat, Daniel Foote, wrote, quote, "I will not be associated with the United States' inhumane, counterproductive decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees." Foote also criticized the Biden administration's meddling in Haiti's political affairs, including its support for Ariel Henry as prime minister following the assassination of the Haitian President Jovenel Moïse in July. Foote wrote, quote, "This cycle of international political interventions in Haiti has consistently produced catastrophic results." Foot's resignation came just days after U.S. Border Patrol agents on horseback were filmed chasing, grabbing, and whipping Haitian asylum seekers who'd gathered in a makeshift camp in Del Rio, Texas. The New York Times reports the Biden administration has now deported nearly 2,000 Haitians in recent days. About 3,000 Haitian asylum seekers remain in the makeshift camps under the International Bridge in Del Rio, while thousands of others have been allowed to stay in the United States. This is Democratic California Congresswoman Maxine Waters, chair of the House Financial Services Committee, longtime advocate for the rights of people in Haiti, speaking outside the Capitol.
What the hell are we doing here? What we witnessed takes us back hundreds of years. What we witnessed was worse than what we witnessed in slavery. Cowboys with their reins again, whipping black people, Haitians, into the water where they're scrambling and falling down when all they're trying to do is escape from violence in their country.
That's Maxine Waters.
And we end with this letter written by a one-time anti-vaxxer. I have to confess to being a one-time anti-vaxxer. I was adamantly opposed to the vaccines against measles, mumps, pertussis, diphtheria, tetanus, and polio that I was mandated by the state to take. But I later realized that it was actually a good thing. Kindergarten changes a person. Patrick Flynn, Ridge, New York. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.